grilled chicken salad, you know. So I'm ready. I'm ready. How about you?
Yeah, man, I got a DAC today, a digital audio converter, and I plugged that into my computer for the first time, and it's almost like I'm hearing colors. So
Whoa.
I'm kind of going down that audiophile journey, and I'm not sure I'll ever be able to look back. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting, but I'm glad to have you, my man. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to come on Making Time. This is a daily show hosted by the Syndicate Network, where I, HV Socrates, interview creators about their journey through Web3 and ask them a little bit, learn more a little bit about them. So I have pinned the space to the top. As on the jumbotron, as well as you can hit the button at the bottom right corner, the little chat box, and drop a quick like, comment, retweet, so we can get some more people in here to learn more about Outcast. But Outcast, I'm glad your day's been well. Um, do you have anything you want to start with, or is it okay if I just jump straight into it?
Man, jump straight into it. Just want to say thank you for having me, Syndicate. Socrates, definitely love you and what y'all do. And Siege is in here, Screw right now. We'll have some more people in, but yeah, let's start off.
Yeah, for sure, brother. So yeah, my first question for you would be, what got you into Web3?
Um, yeah, so I got into Web3, man, almost about a year ago, a little over a year ago now, which is crazy. It's barely been any time, I feel. But I got in around December when a friend was showing my roommate like NFTs in general, like crypto in general, and getting into Solana and stuff. And at the time, I was working like three jobs, and I do music too. So we had just like put out an album and stuff, and so we were like kind of on a break, and I was just kind of listening, but wasn't like actively, whipping out the computer and stuff like that. I was just listening, talking to him about it. And that's when I saw some Solana projects like the Tower DAO, D Gods. It was like at 5 Sol, and at that time, Sol was like, let me think, what, like I don't, almost 200. I might be tripping. Am I tripping? No, I think that was true, right? Like a little over a year ago. And I just couldn't fathom, right? I'm like, damn, these D guys like 500, 1,000, or whatever, right? I was like, what? Why are people buying these? Um, and that was like kind of my first introduction to it. And I had just created a Twitter account, and I really didn't know how to use Twitter, but I saw that it was a platform to be used to grow a fan base, in a way, a way to connect with people. So I just started that, and then um, one of my friends from there was working with a project, and the artist bailed, and I was like, you know what? Let me try some art. Let me do something, and give me his busted iPad, and I got into it. And yeah, I did the Gen One for Ghostface, and then I did some like Gen Two base stuff, but I was too busy with Outcast. Like long story short, Soulcat took over. He did a great job. Yeah, but that was like my start, and I was like doing the art for it, and you know, I got paid, and I'm like, what? Like, this is crazy. Is this real? I really didn't think it was real until like I could pull it out and use it to pay my rent, you know. And so, needless to say, it was definitely life changing, um, encouraging as an artist too. And yeah, it's been a very intense, detailed, um, yet quick journey. I feel like in this year, done a lot of things, seen a lot of people, seen a lot of things move. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting that your journey started in, you said December, and that's when my journey started too. So I guess we're brothers when it comes to length of time spent in the space. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting learning your story. So you said you were working three jobs and you were doing your music stuff on the side, and then a friend of a friend effectively kind of started talking about it and kind of got you exposed to blockchain, and then before you
Right.
know it, you're kind of ingrained in the culture. So have you always been like an artist? You said you also did music. So have you? How long have you been doing those kind of art forms for?
Yeah, so art, I've always been drawing since I was a kid. I think I was pretty good with graphite and pencil and stuff, and drawing people and anime, of course, right? Like Dragon Ball Z and turning Super Saiyan. I was definitely like pretty solid with it, just drawing consistently. But I think at some point in like middle school, my stepmom was like, "Man, like you can't do it. Like there's no money to be made, and you know, like, if you're not painting the Mona Lisa at this age, you're not gonna do it." And so I think it really, downed me. And I started pursuing different things. I was still creative, but I was like, man, I don't know if I could do art like a career, like full time or whatever. So uh as I grew in age, I was still doing commissions and like um, posters and graphic design stuff, helping music videos, editing. So I was just learning kind of like different trades, getting my bag like filled with knowledge in different creative areas. And as I was doing that, we were doing music too, huge passion for it, and we started doing shows and such. And I started doing all my graphics and covers, and people were hitting me up for that. So that was part time, right? It was part time for sure because it was like I devoted a lot of time into it because I'm passionate about it. I love it, but it just wasn't there to pay fully for my necessities, right? Like rent and eating and living and stuff. So it was a strong um, side passion, which eventually I wanted to make into my full thing. But I had to still work like three other jobs to make things happen. Um, throughout throughout the time throughout last year. So a lot's changed for sure.
Yeah, for sure, and I totally understand that. Whenever you're pursuing something that's as inconsistent as art, you kind of have to have those jobs to pay the bills. You can't really depend on art, and especially early in your career, at least, depend on art and music and stuff like that to pay your bills. You need that consistency to be able to make it. To be able to live. But you did mention something earlier that I thought was a little bit interesting. You're talking about how your stepmom discouraged you and said there's no money to be made in art at such a young age. So I'm curious, would you be willing to tell me more about how your parents have influenced you to be who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's got their own share of struggle and brokenness. We're all broken, and with our families and stuff. Whether if it's like it looks good on the outside or it doesn't. I think for me growing up, it was very tough for sure. um just being confused, and like I really thought like divorce was like normal and stuff. And me having a Korean background, just the way that culture is combined and how you really don't speak up about things that are abnormal. Just grew up like feeling like not enough or not um what I'm supposed to be doing. I felt like I was doing things wrong, you know and Uh, but as I grew older and like mature and thinking back on it, there are some things that like I just wouldn't change. I wouldn't change the way that I was brought up or whatever, and it's because I was able to solve those issues, solve those problems on my own, I guess. And going in that journey, I had to do that. If I had everything given to me, it'd be too easy, right? Like the easiest level in a game. Like why am I playing? And I think when she told me that, yeah, it pushed me down. But I went to discover different creative avenues. What if I didn't? Then I wouldn't have known these other skills, and maybe wouldn't have pursued music so purposefully and been in that room with my friend that was into crypto and getting into stepping and whatever the hell. And what if I wasn't there? So I'm really grateful for those opportunities and how I grew, and it led me to where I am.
Yeah, for sure. And I like what you mentioned, right? We are kind of the sum of our mistakes and the sum of our opportunities, and kind of what's been the hand that's been dealt to us. So and this comes up with a lot of my speakers, is looking forward, you can never really anticipate what might happen, but looking backwards, it all kind of makes sense. And w- most of us, or a lot of us, tend to kind of relish in that and be able to accept what's happened, and kind of come to terms with, okay, well, if it were not for these things, I would not be where I am today. So it is a personal journey, and in your case, you had to solve these familial problems or family problems to get to where you are today, and that affords you the opportunities you had. Maybe you wouldn't have had that conversation in crypto, and I think that's fantastic. I think it's just a testament to how aware you are, and I think that's awesome. So, um, along this journey, I'm sure you've kind of dabbled, you do music, and you also do. Geez, dude, hold on, I need to step back for a second. I'm tripping over my own words. Um,
The sound is too good for you, bro. The sound
yeah,
is just.
yeah, I'm sure, dude. It's got me tripping out. But I wanted to ask you, so I'll just cut to the question I want to ask you. So,
Mhm.
what do you do with all of your unpublished art, and what do you think about it?
Oh man, I have so many drafts and so many things that are really dope. You know, what is it, like alterations and commissions that are completely different to um, working on things for projects that never had been revealed. Um, so many things, but I think that that all adds to what being a creator or an artist is about. There's a lot of things that you may create and you may love, and it may not be shown to like the mass, and that's okay. I feel because I think those are the special pieces that are a part of you that you've worked at, that you hold, that's yours, that you created, but maybe it doesn't need to be seen by everybody like that, or maybe it's just not the right timing. So I have a lot of unpublished work, and they may never be seen, but maybe there will be at the right time, maybe the right event, the right series, the right timing. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a lesson that a lot of people learn, not only from an artistic perspective, but from an entrepreneurial perspective, and from
Mhm.
like a life development perspective. There's a lot of things that you might do internally, or you might work on behind the scenes, and it'll just never see the light of day. But that's not effort gone to waste, because you learned one thing about yourself. You learned one thing not to do, and you
Mhm.
can grow from that. And that'll help you just be a better person and be able to create better content and get closer to what it means to be outcast, or what it means to be Socrates in my case. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's fantastic. So, another question I had. So, for the art you do publish as
Mhm.
outcast or as a musician, what do you do, and how does it make you feel when someone doesn't quote unquote get or understand your art?
Yeah. Well, with my art specifically here in Web3 and Outcast and stuff, there are a lot of people that don't like traditionally like love it because it's not maybe the general like, oh, here's like a detailed art piece like a High Blinks Jam, or like a magazine look like Laura. Um, I mean, but so many people are doing so many different things that it's like it may get oversaturated to me. So for me, every time when I approach art, I want to create something that's very genuine to me. That's a piece of me, something that I can resonate with, or something that's dope and just unique. And so a lot of my pieces are animated, and I take time with that because I love seeing it move. I love seeing it come alive. But I also love doing still like pieces, of course. But well, yeah, when I'm creating, I just want it to be the clearest, the genuine representation of myself. So, of course, not everyone's gonna like it. Not everyone's gonna like me, and I think that makes it much easier for me to be myself. So, yeah, I love it. Like everybody has their own artist they like. Whether it's pixel, 3D, animated stills, photos, poetry, and there's a reason for it because everybody's different. Everybody likes different things, and things come and go. Lots of heat comes in for things that's hot right now. Or some new kid on the block or whatever. But I believe, when people invest in artists, they are investing in those people, right? And I think in the long term, you know, whatever I do, you know, people are betting on that I'm going to be consistent, and I am for sure, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I like how you mentioned that everyone is different. And I think this is important to understand from two perspectives, from the collector
Mhm.
perspective and from the artist perspective. You know,
Mhm.
as an artist, you create different art pieces, whether that be digital art or 3D and pixel art, as you mentioned.
Right.
You express yourself in a different way, and that can be received differently by each different collector, right? If you have 100
Mhm.
collectors, that's 100 different perspectives of people taking a glimpse into you and your soul, you know? So
Right.
it's a really interesting take, and it's a really interesting thing to kind of be aware of, and
Yes.
for everyone involved. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and that's why I feel so bad for like 90% of founders of projects because they got like thousands of people like pissed off at them. Why is the price going down? You know, and I mean, you know, no lie, there is that type of animosity or politics in the one of one art game and editions and stuff, but not as heavy as that. And I think if you're not ready for that, it's like, you know, most of the people, most of the founders just are overwhelmed by that pressure, you know. Same with artists and stuff. But yes, let's keep it moving.
Yeah, for sure. No, no, I totally understand. I'm a project owner myself, and I totally relate to what you're saying. It gets difficult sometimes. So,
Hmm.
especially you get evaluated a lot more critically as a business owner rather than like an artist.
Right.
So it's a little bit harder to take some of that feedback and implement and in kind of accommodate for people. But it is what it is. That's kind of just one of the things you sign up for as a project owner. But I do have
Hmm.
another question for you. So as you've been developing as Outcast and really even finding your art style that kind of is true to you, I'm sure you've had to overcome like a number of hurdles, especially when it comes to kind of being self conscious about your work. So, something I'm curious to learn about is, when do you feel most self conscious about yourself or your art?
Mm, okay. I'm gonna drop a bomb on me, Socrates. Okay. Well, I feel the most self conscious about my art. I feel like, man, when I spend so much time on it, and it's like, yo, this is the hardest thing ever, right? And I typically know that when I look at a piece and I can't stop looking at it, you know. I'm sure a lot of artists feel that way too, whether it's music or a photo they take or a piece that they create by drawing. But I look at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is ridiculous. But when it comes to game day, you know, it's like it's like, oh, okay, I got 10 likes. Or you know, oh, it's not a lot of people are showing love. And so it gets in my head. And of course, like, we're not supposed to. Every damn guru says, like, don't look at the likes, like, don't look at the comments, don't look at the love. But it's very tough, especially with our modern like life cycle of like you see everybody else's, so you subconsciously compare yourself, continuously compare. It's very unhealthy. And so like I had to step away from that. But the unfortunate thing is, like, you step away for too long, people don't hear from you too much or whatever, then your engagement dies down. So it's like we're stuck. We're stuck in the hyperbolic time chamber. So I think a lot of people, when, or I mean for me at least, like when I'm creating something super dope and I put it out and it's not getting the much love, I just take a step back and I'm like, man, I know this is dope. And the right people is gonna see it. The right person's gonna see it. And you know, it keeps me going because I know it's art that's genuine to me. And I've been like definitely in highs and lows. Like I'm like, oh man, this is beautiful. Like I want to keep going. People love it, whatever. And then some lows where it's like, man, no one's seeing this right now. And I put my heart into it. And oh man, there's all these other pieces of arts that like people are posting. It's like not that solid, but you know, they're getting picked up traction because it's hot, it's new. Um, you know, that's the name of the game. And there's gonna be a new project tomorrow. There's gonna be a new artist tomorrow. But if I feel like if I just stay true, if you just stay true to what it is you're creating, and you wholeheartedly just keep it moving, keep it consistent, in whatever shape that takes form, whether it's a new series, new edition, new piece, building upon your world, or a whole nother thing. I think as you continue to create and be genuine, people will recognize that much longer. You know, more than what's temporary right now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like whenever you put out those works, I totally resonate with what you're feeling, right? You spend
hmm
hours and you pour your emotion into something, and then you send it out for the world to see or read or hear or listen to, and it gets maybe 10 likes and or
yes,
maybe 2 likes. Sometimes you get no engagement, and it's a
yeah,
really hard feeling to get over. Everyone is always like, "Oh, don't worry about the analytics, don't worry about the numbers, don't dwell on that." But it's hard. It's one of those things that it stares you right in the face as you look at all these hours, and it doesn't translate
right,
into that instant satisfaction or that dopamine hit. But as
yes,
you mentioned, right, and just so I finish the thought really quickly, as you mentioned, it's like you're building a legacy. Keep putting in those works out there, keep
mm-hmm.
refining who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll come across like your larger identity, and people will come to appreciate you for who you are. Did you want to add to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Let me multiply that. Boom. No, I'm playing. Yeah, I love what you said, and I think it's so important to know that like that translation that we're looking for, that hit of dopamine that we're looking for, is like it should not just be contingent on the social, on that profile, because a lot of that stuff is fake. A lot of that stuff is just farmed, right? I mean, shoot, like I would get really mad that a lot of my good morning posts would get like 5 times more traction than some of my art posts. So sometimes I would just not do no good morning posts. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. But it's tough because you got to play the game. You got to kind of do a little balance with it, because you drop a little bit of that, some engagement posts. Okay, then you bring out some art, you bring some, and then you can bring in some substance, some detail on why you do what you do. But I believe it's a balance, and um, I know a lot of people in this space that are very unhappy, and I think if they weren't so contingent on that translation, and they were joyful throughout the process, and then I think you know they 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 smile more. So
Yeah, of course, of course. So, uh, as you kind of navigated your journey as Outcast, and as you mentioned, you've had these experiences where maybe a post does flop or something doesn't go perfectly. Um, what would you say throughout your life have been what do you think has been your biggest failure, and then what did you learn from that?
man, my biggest failure um in this NFT art space, specifically in Solana, I would say I blew up too quick in the very beginning, my first few pieces. And, it's weird to say, but I think because it wasn't a gradual, you feel me? It was like, boom, okay, outcast, 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 whatever, first few months. And then like it just starts to drift down. I still like remain consistent in, what is it, collab with different big projects and artists, and um, try new things to reinvent the brand, and still be honest with it. But it got to a point where it's like, man, it kept on dipping. And now I'm thinking like TikTok strategy. When I say TikTok, I mean like, as artists or musicians or whatever, they're like, okay, like I got to do something hot, something trendy, something quick. I got to do it with the right sound or whatever. So people can see it. I got to do the hashtags. Um, and that was not a good, like, it did help in some areas, like get to see new people and stuff, but like, man, it was exhausting. It was draining for me. Um, so I think if, and this is what I tell everybody too, like Alka is my first baby, my first like idea, first project, bring it to life. So in NFTs and Solana. And if it wasn't gonna hit anyways and it was gonna be gradual, I would have done something else. I would have tried something different. I would have kept going. And I know a few artists that continue to do that, and it makes me really happy to like Siege is rocking ISO Ghost Lord's, new thing. And he's been consistently dropping so many different pieces of work. And then he found something that, resonated with him, that works for him. And I think that's it. For me, it's like, man, I wish it wasn't as at the beginning, but it is what it is, and I can only look forward to it. Look forward into creating just continue building my world, and whether it's a new idea that comes to play, I just hope I execute it in the right way. Now, knowing what I know, and the connections I've built and relationships I've continued to nurture, I wanted to keep on moving in the way that I'm not like, okay, like I'm tripping about the likes or whatever, but I'm more so like, okay, I'm enjoying the process. Then all those things are bonuses. All those things come.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is pretty inspirational. You've had this experience where you had this huge upbringing, like you blew up extremely quickly, and then things kind of died down from there, and you've had to work through that. Because I imagine that's emotionally, like that must be difficult emotionally. You have this big wave of attention and support, and then things start to slow down.
Right.
So,
It's like
how,
getting a big bag or like a paycheck, right? And you're like, oh man, it's gonna be like this every week. And then next week it's like less, even less. You're like, oh my gosh. You're like, wow. I can't. I thought I was doing something. But yeah, it definitely is a real hit. That's a very honest thing to say. It's just like a hit. And a lot of people felt that during this bear market time. At least most people. But yeah, I think that's a human thing. So it's on my fault where it's like, oh, okay, I was used to it, but like I had to be humbled for me to progress and problem solve.
Yeah, and I think that's really unique about you. I think it's a perspective that you offer that some people don't. Because there are other artists who spend months and months and months and months building, and they don't even get a glimpse of attention, right? And maybe
Right.
it's because their strategy is wrong, or maybe their art is not just in the kind of cool, quote unquote, cool right now. But either
Mm,
way, you offer a very unique perspective, which I think is interesting. And one thing you mentioned that I like is you said you tried out kind of a TikTok strategy. And I think that's interesting because what I found is when your back is against the wall, that's when you tend to get the most creative. So this
mm,
segues into my next question for you is when have you felt most creative in your life?
mm. Oh man, I feel the most creative when I'm very clear in my life, when I'm not like bogged down with a bunch of stuff, whether it's like relationships, family, work, chaos with paying bills and stuff like that. Um, I think when I'm the most clear with my life, when I'm like on it, like journaling, exercising, experiencing nature, having great social conversations, and friends that challenge me, and in order for me to grow. I think when I'm in those when I'm in the zone in that, I'm the most creative because then I can see clearly where I want to go. Times when I'm bogged down with like 100 commissions and collabs and different things and pressure from holders and stuff like that, it's like, oh man, like where's the fun in it? I lose that kind of fun, and it's almost like um, I'm just working, for the man, and I wanted to start this journey to be um, free of that, right? To create wholeheartedly. So yeah, when I'm the most creative, when I experience life, when I'm just living like fully, I can breathe, and yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It is whenever you have less kind of obligations and you have that ability to be more free, it's a lot more creative for me at least. I feel that sometimes as well. I also feel like I'm most creative. Of course I'm not an artist, but I do writing and I do songwriting on my own, but I feel most creative whenever I have deadlines and I'm pressured. I don't know
Mm,
why, but for me, for my experiences, whenever I'm racing against time, I'm able to just spit something out. And I think our reason why is I
hmm.
kind of no longer have inhibitions. I kind of just go, vomit
Yeah,
it out, and then that just becomes more or less it's just an embodiment of me in the moment. But I
for
think it's
sure.
interesting for sure. So I have we're coming close to time, so I'll ask you two or three more questions, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Hmm.
Um, so my next question for you is: so you've kind of taken this journey as Outcast, and you've experimented, you've learned from failure,
Mm.
and you've kind of gotten to this point where you are now. would you say that your 12-year-old self would be proud of where you are today?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Just wholeheartedly going into something that I believe in. I believe in myself. I believe in um, what I want to do and why I'm doing it. I think my 12-year-old self would definitely be proud of me. Would not even recognize me, you know. So I'm very blessed to be where I am, and I hope to encourage that 12-year-old self of mine and others, just really just just sticking with it. And that's the secret sauce, just being consistent in whatever it is you're doing. And it's okay if you want to try a bunch of different things, I feel, and they say like, oh, you can't be a jack of all trades or whatever, you'd never be a master of none. But how would you know, that's what you're supposed to be doing if you don't try all these other things? So yeah, I think my 12-year-old self would um, be really happy for sure.
Yeah, and that's awesome to hear, my man. And I appreciate you being a little bit vulnerable about that. But um, I think it's awesome. I think it's been really interesting to learn about your journey, and the risks you've
Mhm.
took and the troubles you've had, and what's kind of what it's taken to be where you are today. So,
Mm.
I guess one of my last questions I'd ask you is, if you had to go back and do anything differently, would you?
Man, I want to say no. Um, of course, I want to say no because I've gotten to where I am because of all those situations and the things that led my journey to reap the fruit of what has been sown. I think those obstacles, them hardships, some struggles had to happen for me to be where I'm at. Like you said, with my back against a wall, I had to make a move. I had to put out hits. I had to do something. And because I'm very grateful for it, I have to be in a gratitude mindset. Because if I'm not, then as quick as in a year is quick. As quick as I've done this, I've done what I've done. It can be taken away from me just like that. So I'm just grateful for each and every day that I can create, and that people are interested. You know, so I'm happy to just do that. And you know yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I do appreciate you taking your time out of your day to help us learn more about you. I know you're quite the busy man. You got a ton of stuff going on, so it does mean a lot to us for you to come chat and be a little bit vulnerable about your story and let us know what it's like to be outcast. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask you one last question, and then we'll look to wrap it up. So my last question for you would be, who or what inspires you most?
Mm. God for sure. He's the best artist in the world. And my other creatives that are pushing as hard, if not harder than me. I think that builds a healthy competition, and I love seeing creatives win. So whether it's from the music side or from artists here that I see in Web3 space, whether they're traditionally successful or they've grown successful in Web3, I love to see artists, creators genuinely win. You know, so yeah, that really inspires me as I see people do that. Of course, like I love like anime, the creation of that, and like Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki, and Murakami, like different artists that I study. I love seeing them, do what they do and bring to life their stories. So that deeply inspires me.
Yeah, for sure. I think looking around for me as well, like looking at my peers and just seeing their journeys and learning more about their stories is incredibly inspiring to me. And that's one of the big reasons I love doing Making Time is I get an insight into people's lives that I otherwise wouldn't have had, right? Like Outcast, you and I probably had a handful of conversations ever, and probably over Twitter DMs. We did meet briefly in Austin Acker but
Mm-hmm.
not for very long, right? Like I didn't get to talk to you for about too much, but it's these opportunities that we get with each other in Web3 and over social media and just in general where we get to learn more about people's stories and be able to put our lives in perspectives and find
Mm-hmm.
inspiration from that and find value in that and be able to relate to people because the human connection above all else is incredibly, incredibly important in our
Mm,
lives. But Outcast, it's been a fantastic conversation. I do appreciate you taking the
beautiful.
time out of your day once again to hop on our show and tell us more about your story. This is a daily show, Making Time by Syndicate Network, hosted by me, HV Socrates. Tomorrow, we will be interviewing artist Vision. He's a 3D artist in Solana. He's a super cool guy. He just minted a collection called the One of Ones. If you are interested in learning more about him, I have pinned the space for tomorrow to the top. So if you could set a reminder, drop a quick like, comment, retweet, that would be fantastic. But Outcast, do you have any final thoughts before I go ahead and close this space?
Yeah, no, I think you worded that beautifully. Human connection is just that's what it's about. It's very crucial. Behind all the PFPs and all the shit posts and everything and bonk, 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 there's a person behind that screen. So I think whatever we create, whatever we do, impacts someone in this space. So, I'm very honored that you have me on this space. And, I hope to talk with you and the team some more. Let me know how I can be of service in any way. And yeah, let's chop it up again, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to have you again on the show in the future. Maybe when we're on episode, I don't know, 80. We're going to be doing these every day. So on these
Beautiful.
speakers, for sure, for sure. But man, and everyone in the audience, thank you for supporting creators. It means a lot to not
Yeah.
only me, but to Outcast and to every other artist, musician, and everyone else out there. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our show. But once again, thank you guys for showing up, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye bye.
You too. Peace.